The day my wife found out she was pregnant, I overheard her conversation with the sponsored student I was supporting. "Darling, this baby inside me is your flesh and blood. When are you going to announce our relationship? I'm sick of seeing Robert's idiotic face every day. You just need to be patient for a while. After all, the company is his premarital property. Once our child inherits his assets in the future, we can be together openly." I pretended not to know. I carefully raised the son my wife gave birth to. 24 years later, my son returned from studying abroad. I transferred all the company's shares and assets to his name. At the press conference, the sponsored student walked up to me, holding my wife's hand in a paternity test report, and declared, "Daniel is my biological son. You've occupied him for so many years. Now, it's time to give him back to me." My son also threw a divorce agreement at me, saying ruthlessly, "Divorce my mom quickly so our family of 3 can be together. Considering you raised me for many years, I'm willing to give you $500 a month in support payments." I smiled subtly and said, "Okay. Honey, aren't you supposed to go to the company for a board meeting today? Why are you still busy in the study?" Sarah brought a warm milk and placed it in front of me, asking gently. I closed the laptop and looked up with a smile. "Daniel's teacher said he's been coughing a bit lately. I contacted the most reputable pediatrician for him. We'll take him to the hospital tomorrow." Sarah placed her hand on my shoulder, touched. "Every time Daniel has a slight cold, you get so worried. When Daniel grows up, he'll definitely take care of you properly." I looked at Sarah and said softly, "I'm Daniel's father. If I don't take good care of him, who will?" Sarah's face softened, and she smiled sweetly. "You're so good, honey. Marrying you and having Daniel is truly the greatest blessing of my life." Looking at Sarah's loving eyes, I smiled slightly and didn't reply. Sarah and I dated for 3 years and have been married for 10 years in total. She always took attentive care of me when I was tired from work. She was always gentle and considerate at unexpected moments. She would lean in my arms, her eyes full of sincerity, saying she'd love me forever. If I hadn't accidentally overheard her conversation that day, I wouldn't have believed that the woman who seemed to love me dearly would betray me. "Uncle David, you're finally here." My son's joyful voice suddenly echoed from the living room. I immediately got up and walked out of the study. I saw David walk in through the main door, expertly scoop up my son, and affectionately kiss his cheek. "How are you doing? Did you miss Uncle David?" As he spoke, David's gaze suddenly fell on me. His smile instantly froze, and his expression flickered with awkwardness. Before he could speak, Sarah quickly pulled my hand and explained for him, "Honey, Daniel's kindergarten has an outdoor parent-child activity today. I knew you were busy with work, so I didn't tell you. I specifically asked David to come and help out." Hearing this, David quickly put Daniel down and nervously explained to me, Right, Robert. You've supported me for so many years. I've always been grateful to you and wanted to repay you properly." As soon as Sarah called, I rushed over. Looking at his flustered attempt to hide his guilt, I couldn't help but remember the day Daniel was born. David also came to the hospital under the guise of visiting the baby, waiting with me while Sarah was in labor. He was very agitated then, pacing the hallway, wringing his hands constantly. The doctors passing by saw him like this and couldn't help but pat his shoulder. "First time being a father? Don't be nervous, relax." He was just as guilty then. Seeing me remain silent, David continued to explain, "Robert, I just couldn't resist kissing Daniel because he's so cute. You won't blame me, will you?" I smiled subtly and said calmly, "Of course not. I'm busy with work and sometimes neglect my family. I should be thanking you for helping me take care of my wife and child." Hearing me say this, David and Sarah both breathed a sigh of relief simultaneously. My son ran up to me, his innocent eyes asking, "Dad, are you going to the company today, or are you coming to the kindergarten with Mom and me?" I stroked my son's head and asked, "What does Daniel want Dad to do?" My son replied without hesitation, "I want Dad to go to the company, and then Uncle David can go to the kindergarten with Mom and me." As if afraid of her son's loose tongue, Sarah immediately pulled him into her arms and explained, "Honey, Daniel is just afraid of delaying your work. Last time, he even said Dad works hard and told us not to bother you unnecessarily." David also nodded in agreement. Daniel is such a sensible child. Only someone as outstanding as Robert could have such a well-behaved son like Daniel. I said to my son with a smile, "Then let's do whatever Daniel wants." Hearing this, my son jumped with joy. He grabbed David and Sarah's hands and ran out as if no one else was there. Watching the scene of their happy family of 3, I smiled subtly. I turned and returned to the study, opening my laptop to continue the work I hadn't finished. It seemed they thought I was particularly dense and incapable of noticing anything amiss. David grew increasingly bold. Before, he would only meet secretly with Sarah when I was at the company. Now, even when I was home, he would find various excuses to visit. Robert, I've been teaching myself to cook recently. I wanted to come over and make something delicious to thank you for supporting me all these years. Robert, I just got back from out of town and brought a lot of local specialties. I specially came to bring them to you. Robert, I quit my job and started my own business. I'm a bit short on startup capital. Could you help me out again? Although I knew David's true purpose for visiting my home was always to see Daniel and Sarah, I never refused him. Whenever he came, I welcomed him politely, and I always responded to his requests for help. Sarah was very satisfied with this arrangement. Whenever she saw David arrive, she couldn't help but smile. Sometimes, she would even engage in exchanging glances and flirting with David right in front of me. Even Daniel became increasingly close to David. He even specially bought David a pair of slippers so he could come over anytime. This life continued until Daniel's college entrance exams. The day the results came out, David arrived at my house early in the morning. He waited with us for Daniel's test results. Seeing Daniel's shockingly low college entrance exams score, Sarah was furious, her eyebrows knitted tightly. How did you get such a low score? Daniel said nonchalantly, so what? Anyway, we're rich. Dad can just get him into a good school for me, right? Sarah glanced at me subtly. Seeing that I didn't react, she continued, no matter how much your dad dotes on you, he can't let you be so reckless. He was planning to retire early and let you take over the company. If you're so unpromising, how can your dad feel confident leaving the company to you in the future? David also chimed in earnestly, Daniel, your mom is right. Although Robert is your dad and definitely won't abandon you, you still need to have some skills of your own. Otherwise, how will you get the seasoned executives at the company to respect you when you take over? Watching them go back and forth, I smiled slightly and said, it's okay. I've already made plans for Daniel. I'll just send him to study abroad then. Anyway, everything I have is for Daniel. Once he comes back from studying abroad, he can take over the company naturally. Hearing me say this, all three of them smiled with satisfaction. I smiled too. They laughed at me for being too foolish. I laughed at them for being too naive. While arranging his study abroad, I took Daniel to the company every day. I taught him the company's business without reservation, and I encouraged the company's veterans to interact with Daniel to prepare them for assisting him in the future. The day he left for abroad, after Sarah sent Daniel to the airport, she held his hand, her face filled with reluctance. David also specially came. He carried Daniel's bags, big and small, afraid he would be even slightly burdened. The two of them kept giving Daniel instructions. The scene was warm and touching, truly embodying a parent's worry for their child leaving home. After Daniel boarded the plane, they continued to watch the plane until it disappeared into the sky. Only then did they reluctantly leave, tears in their eyes. After Daniel went abroad, David visited my house less often. But Sarah started going out more and more frequently. Each time she went out, she would meticulously get dressed up for an hour. When she returned, her face would be rosy and beaming. Whenever I asked, she would either say she went shopping and getting her hair done with her girlfriends or that she had enrolled in a dance or fitness class. When she couldn't find an excuse, she would pretend to cry sadly, wiping away tears and complaining, Daniel has never been away from me before. Going abroad for so long all of a sudden, I can't help but miss him. If I don't find something to do for myself, I'll go crazy. Ignoring the cologne smell on her, I smiled and comforted her, Daniel will be back soon. Then, our family of three can be together again. Sarah pursed her lips and smiled, hinting, yes, soon our family of three will be together. 4 years later, Daniel returned from studying abroad. David, whom I hadn't seen in a long time, came to my house early in the morning, just like before, to accompany Sarah and me to pick him up at the airport. The moment they saw Daniel, David and Sarah lost control of their emotions and rushed forward. They hugged Daniel tightly, completely oblivious to everyone else. After the three of them vented their longing, Daniel walked straight towards me and got straight to the point. Dad, I'm back. When are you going to let me manage your company? Seeing Daniel's impatient look, I smiled calmly. Let's go. I've already called a press conference. Soon, I will transfer everything to you in front of everyone. The press conference venue was packed. All the media reporters and business leaders and prominent figures gathered there, just to witness the change of ownership of the business magnate Prestige Corporation. Under the spotlight, I announced that Daniel would take over as CEO of Prestige Corporation. And witnessed by lawyers and cameras, I signed the stock transfer agreement, transferring all my personal assets and company shares to Daniel's name. Immediately, there was thunderous applause and a buzz of excitement. Many people marveled at the deep father-son bond between Daniel and me. The looks they cast at Daniel were filled with envy. However, at this very moment, David arrived late, holding Sarah's hand. In the bewildered and surprised gazes of the crowd, David pulled out a paternity test report and declared loudly to me, "Robert, Daniel is actually my son. He's called you Dad for over 20 years. Now, it's time to give him back to me." Hearing this, the scene instantly erupted in an uproar. Isn't that the sponsored student Mr. Robert has been supporting all these years? He actually cheated on him and made him raise his child. This is a classic case of biting the hand that fed him. Mr. Robert helped him so much, and he repaid kindness with malice. He waited until now to claim his son. Mr. Robert just signed the stock transfer agreement, and now he's claiming the child. It's obvious he's after Mr. Robert's property. Exactly, it's too much. Not only did he cheat on someone and make them raise his kid, but he also drained their assets. That's truly vicious. Amidst everyone's fierce condemnation, Sarah spoke self-righteously, "For the first half of my life, I was bound by marriage. On countless difficult nights, I asked myself, is this truly the life I want? Robert's family is well off, and he treated me very well, but the person I truly loved in my heart was David. I was just pursuing true love. Was I wrong? In love, the unloved person is the outsider. Marriage shouldn't be a cage preventing one from pursuing true love. I hope everyone will wish us well." Sarah was full of confidence, her voice resonating clearly. I ignored her and looked directly at Daniel beside me, asking, "What do you think?" Daniel carefully looked at the stock transfer agreement in his hand, then said calmly, "Dad, this is the last time I'll call you this. Although you raised me meticulously for over 20 years, you are not my biological father. Blood is thicker than water. I hope you won't stop our family of 3 from being together." With that, Daniel threw a divorce agreement onto my face and said proudly, "Since everyone is here, divorce my mom today and set her free. Considering you gave us all for me all these years, I will give you $500 a month in support payments." Upon hearing this, everyone present was enraged. Just as expected, like father like son. What kind of people are this family of 3? Exactly. Everyone knows Mr. Robert doted on his son and cherished him. After pampering him for so many years, he just transferred billions in assets to him, and he turns around and claims someone else as his dad? $500 a month in support payments? Is that a paltry sum? How could he even say that? Even I, an outsider, can't stand it. Mr. Robert, don't bother with this family of ungrateful wretches. Right, they're going too far. People in the audience defended me, and some even offered to help me sue to get my assets back. Facing everyone's reactions, David and Sarah remained calm. It was as if they were prepared for any situation that might arise. However, amidst everyone's righteous indignation, I smiled subtly. "Okay." With that, I signed the divorce agreement under everyone's astonished gaze. Seeing this, David and Sarah were slightly stunned, seemingly not expecting me to agree so readily. They picked up the divorce agreement and the stock transfer agreement, examined them carefully, and only after confirming everything was correct did they smile with relief. Seeing them smile so triumphantly, I also smiled. "Since you've given me such a big surprise, then I have a big gift to give back to you." Under the gaze of everyone present, I took out a wooden box I had prepared in advance. I handed it to Sarah and said solemnly, "This is our family heirloom. I originally intended to give it to Daniel, as he was the heir I designated. Although he doesn't acknowledge me as his father, in my heart, he will always be my son. And Sarah, you will always be the one I love. I'm giving this family heirloom to you, and I wish your family harmony for a lifetime." Sarah's eyes widened slightly. She stared at me in astonishment for a while before taking the wooden box. She cautiously opened it and took out a pair of ancient antique gold lockets. Seeing this, everyone was dumbfounded. It really is the Prestige Corporation family heirloom. Is Robert crazy? He's actually blessing this family of ungrateful wretches. He's probably gone crazy from the shock. His mind isn't right. It's too tragic. His wife and child, whom he cherished for so many years, are leaving with all his assets to be with someone else. Who could possibly accept that? But this action is just too spineless. Exactly, it's so humiliating for a man. A simp who ends up with nothing. The audience couldn't help but look at me with disdain. David also started lapping, exclaiming, "Robert, when you supported me before, I just thought you were a stupid fool with too much money. But today, you truly impressed me. You're not stupid, you're a born simp, the most amazing cuckolded man I've ever seen." Daniel frowned tightly, looking at me with disgust. "Thank goodness you're not my real dad, otherwise it would be utterly embarrassing." Sarah also pursed her lips, speechless. "Robert, marrying you was truly the greatest shame of my life. Don't ever say you know me again. I can't afford to be associated with you." With that, she linked arms with David and Daniel and strode away from the press conference. And I instantly became a trending topic. Reporters at the scene live-streamed everything that happened today. Netizens across the country saw my plight and actions, and heated discussions erupted online. What kind of ultimate stoic is this? He's being walked all over and bullied, and he's still sending blessings to that family of ungrateful wretches? Exactly, if it were me, I'd take them all down on the spot. Start a crowdfunding campaign, brother. I really can't imagine how you'll live on $500 a month. The internet was abuzz. Netizens expressed sympathy and indignation towards my situation. Many people also contacted me, asking if I needed publicity or should play the victim by live streaming to recover some losses. I declined them one by one and silently returned home. As soon as I got home, I saw David moving his luggage into my house. Meanwhile, Sarah and Daniel were throwing my things out like garbage. Seeing me arrive, Sarah stood with her arms crossed, scoffed at me, and said with disgust, "Robert, this house belongs to Daniel now, and we're divorced. Get your junk and get out of here quickly. Don't disturb our family of three being together." Sarah was no longer pretending. The gentleness and tranquility she used to show me were gone, replaced by endless contempt and revulsion. It was as if she had endured me for a long time. Daniel also looked at me condescendingly. "A man living like you is truly a failure." Saying this, he pulled $500 in cash from his wallet and threw it on the ground. "This is this month's support payments. Take the money and get lost quickly. Don't dirty the floor of my house." The Daniel who used to treat me with utmost respect now utterly despised me. I didn't say anything. I quietly stepped forward, picked up the money from the ground, and gathered my luggage. Then I turned and left. Leaving the mansion, I rented a cheap and simple basement apartment and began living a solitary, impoverished life. Every day, I ate instant noodles and plain bread. With a little leftover from the $500 at the end of the month, I bought some meat and stir-fried it with a few peppers. It smelled delicious. Just as I finished cooking, Sarah and David came knocking with Daniel. "Is this a place for people to live? You can't even find a place to hang yourself, and a coffin is bigger than this, right?" David complained as soon as he entered. Sarah covered her nose and mouth with disgust. "Robert, you have hands and feet. Can't you find a job with room and board? You were once the richest man in the city, living in this mouse hole all day. Isn't it disgusting? Even my bathroom is bigger than this. How can you live here?" I ignored their insults and mockery. I leisurely ate my some meat with peppers. Seeing me eating heartily, Daniel examined my dish carefully and couldn't help but exclaim, "Oh, you're even eating meat? It seems giving you $500 a month was too much. From now on, I'll have to reduce your support payments, otherwise you won't know how hard it is to earn money these days." David also nodded repeatedly in agreement. "My son makes sense. From now on, we'll give you $250 a month. That number suits you perfectly." Saying this, Daniel and David burst into hearty laughter. Sarah looked speechless and said, all right, $500 isn't even enough for me to buy a pair of socks. Just consider it a paltry sum. Don't actually let him starve to death. Otherwise, those people online will start criticizing us again. A bunch of idiots, it's none of their business, but they keep harassing me with private messages every day. It's so annoying." Daniel, however, was indifferent. "Mom, don't be angry. I'm marrying Sophia soon. Once I get the Sophia family's assets, will we need to care about those annoying pests online? From now on, you and Dad can just enjoy a comfortable life." Hearing this, Sarah's tightly furrowed eyebrows finally relaxed. That's true. Sophia is a truly powerful businesswoman. She rose through her own abilities, and I heard her influence and assets are much greater than our Monarch Enterprises. Son, you're truly capable to land such a woman. Since I transferred my assets to Daniel, they changed the name of Prestige Corporation to Monarch Enterprises the very next day. Under their management, the company gradually declined, and its market value was much lower than before. But they weren't worried about this, because Daniel recently started dating a woman named Sophia. She was like a runaway success. With extraordinary talent and decisive and efficient methods, she was dominating the business world and quickly found her footing. She even shot straight to the top, becoming an industry legend. This made their family even more arrogant. Otherwise, they wouldn't have specifically come here to mock me. David glanced at me with a smug look and said sarcastically, "Of course. Just look at whose son he is. A man's greatest achievement is marrying a good wife and having a successful son. I always taught Daniel to have good judgment. Ordinary women, don't even look at them. Fortunately, my son is like me, ambitious and capable." Saying this, David put his arm around Sarah and Daniel proudly. "Our family's good life is just beginning. Ha ha ha." As if fantasizing about the rich life to come, this family laughed unrestrainedly in front of me. Listening to their hearty laughter, the corners of my mouth curved slightly. I silently swallowed the last piece of meat. Yes, your good life. It has indeed just begun. Soon, it was the day of Daniel and Sophia's wedding. Their wedding was held at the largest hotel in the city. Today, the hotel, inside and out, was packed. Business leaders and prominent figures with invitations could enter the hotel to attend the wedding. Those without invitations stood outside the hotel, catching a glimpse of the grand scene. Some internet celebrities, wanting to ride this wave of popularity, specifically bought expensive invitations and mingled into the wedding venue to live stream this extravagant wedding for everyone. Watching the hotel filled with prominent figures, the comments section was scrolling endlessly. "This wedding is too high-end, so grand and lavish. I wouldn't even dare to dream like this. I heard this is the wedding Monarch Enterprises specially splurged on to please Miss Sophia. They have to please Miss Sophia, right? After all, she's the most famous new female CEO in the business world recently. She's a powerful businesswoman who truly built her empire herself." Right, I've heard of her too. She's beautiful and capable, and really talented. I don't understand why such a powerful businesswoman would fall for the CEO of Monarch Enterprises. Exactly, everyone knows that Daniel is just a useless, ungrateful wretch. Different strokes for different folks, I guess. Maybe that kid just has a natural destiny for wealth. Indeed, he ended up with a rich father who got cheated on, and now he's marrying a wife who is so rich and capable. It's infuriating how unfair life is. The wedding's popularity remained high, quickly climbing to the top of the trending list. More and more people were watching online. However, just as everyone was marveling at the gathering of affluent families, my figure silently appeared in the livestream feed. Seeing me, the comments section erupted again. "Isn't that Robert? Didn't he fall out with the David family? Why is he here too? Could it be that sending the family heirloom as a blessing last time wasn't enough, and now he wants to give some astonishing blessing at his fake son's wedding? Holy crap, is he really that unbelievable? I hereby declare him the simp godfather." It wasn't just the comments, many people at the wedding venue also looked at me with confusion. And Sarah and David, who were holding drinks and greeting guests, also froze, their smiles disappearing the moment they saw me. David put down his drink and walked straight up to me, saying angrily, "Robert, today is Daniel's wedding day. Everyone here is rich and powerful. How did a poor wretch like you sneak in?" Sarah also looked angry and cursed. "Exactly, you're not welcome here. Get out quickly." Facing their rude expulsion, I said calmly, "I walked in legitimately with an invitation." Hearing this, the two exchanged glances, both seeing surprise and suspicion in the other's eyes. At this moment, Daniel, dressed in a suit, walked up to me and said scornfully, "Robert, are you crazy? Do you know how much I value this wedding? I personally prepared every single invitation myself. You weren't in there at all. How dare you say you got in with an invitation? Have you no shame?" Hearing this, David sneered contemptuously. Looking at how confidently he said it, "I actually thought you invited him. Turns out some people are just shameless, spouting nonsense in public." Sarah sized me up, covered her nose and mouth, and said with disgust, "He's probably starving, trying to sneak in for a free meal. Looking at his poor state, it's obvious he hasn't had a proper meal in a long time." Facing our suppression and humiliation, I silently took out the invitation. "I'm here as a relative of the bride." Hearing this, Daniel immediately frowned. He snatched the invitation and examined it carefully. Seeing that the inviter on the card was indeed Sophia, his eyes widened instantly, his expression filled with shock. "How is this possible?" Seeing his reaction, David quickly asked, "What's wrong, son? Is this invitation real? Is it a fake made by that good-for-nothing Robert?" Daniel shook his head, trembling. "It's real." Then Daniel looked at me again, disbelievingly. "Tell me, where did you get this invitation?" Seeing that Daniel was agitated, Sarah couldn't help but ask softly, "Daniel, Robert did raise you for many years. Maybe Sophia gave Robert the invitation out of consideration for you?" As soon as she finished speaking, Daniel denied it without hesitation. "Impossible. Sophia said I was solely responsible for printing the invitations and inviting guests. She only personally made one single invitation. She said it was for the most important person to her." Hearing this, both David and Sarah's faces changed simultaneously. Even the guests present couldn't help but gather around and discuss. "I heard Miss Sophia is an orphan. She doesn't have any relatives at the wedding today. Then what's with the invitation in Robert's hand?" "Yeah, didn't she say this one unique invitation was for the most important person to Sophia? Is this person Robert? It seems today's wedding is a bit unusual." Now, everyone present looked at me differently. The live stream audience was rapidly scrolling comments, eager to know the answer. Sarah pondered for a moment, then looked at me and asked, "Robert, what's your relationship with Sophia? Why would she give you this only invitation?" Sarah asked the question on everyone's mind. At this moment, everyone quietly watched me, waiting for my answer. But before I could speak, David interrupted. "I can. Ow. He must have stolen this invitation. How could a foolish wretch who's fallen so low be acquainted with someone as prominent as Sophia?" Hearing this, Daniel also nodded. While examining me, he said seriously, "That's right. Look at his poor state. He's not even fit to carry Sophia's shoes. Security. Get this good-for-nothing out of here quickly. Don't let him ruin my and Sophia's wedding." At his command, the hotel security guards quickly surrounded me. Just as they were about to escort me out of the hotel, a clear, cold female voice suddenly rang out from not far away. "I'd like to see who dares touch my father." Everyone looked towards the source of the voice. There stood Sophia, dressed in a designer wedding dress, in the middle of the hall. She was radiant and beautiful, with exceptional presence. Her entire being exuded an inherent grace and nobility. She looked like an angel, captivating anyone who saw her. But her words were even more shocking than her appearance. Daniel was the first to react. He quickly stepped forward and asked Sophia, bewildered, "Sophia, why are you calling Robert Dad?" David also chuckled ingratiatingly. "Yes, Sophia, I'm Daniel's father. Robert is just a stupid fool with too much money." "Oh no, now he's just a fool with no money. You must be mistaken." Sarah also nodded repeatedly, saying with a serious face, "Yes, Sophia, you might not be familiar with our family situation. Robert did raise Daniel before, but he has no blood relation to Daniel whatsoever. You don't need to show Robert face just for Daniel's sake. He doesn't deserve it." Hearing their words, the people present suddenly understood. It seems Sophia made a mistake and mistook Robert for her future father-in-law, which is why she sent the invitation to the wrong person. No wonder. I was wondering how Robert suddenly had another daughter. Robert is about to be proven wrong now. The livestream comments also scrolled nonstop, they were eager to see the cuckolded man completely woken up and stop fawning over David's family. However, at this moment, Sophia's face was as cold as ice. She glared at Daniel with eyes that held inherent authority. Then, under the spotlight, she slowly walked towards me. With a look of admiration, she spoke respectfully, "Dad, thank you for all these years of nurturing and raising me. I once said I would meet you at the pinnacle and repay your kindness with all my might. Today, I'm here to fulfill my promise." If Sophia's previous words could still be misinterpreted as a misunderstanding, then her current actions and words undoubtedly gave everyone a clear answer. She had not mistaken anyone. None of this was a misunderstanding. At this point, everyone was dumbfounded. The live stream comments were completely lost. What's going on? Is Robert really Sophia's dad? Hasn't he been raising someone else's son all these years? How did he suddenly get another daughter? Yeah, and the key is this daughter is so outstanding. Compared to that useless son, she's like heaven and earth. I don't get it. Robert hid this too well? Is the simp finally going to strike back? Everyone was incredibly surprised. Sarah, however, was furious, her eyebrows bristling. "You good-for-nothing Robert, you pretended to be devoted to me, but secretly had such a grown-up illegitimate daughter? So you've been having affairs behind my back all these years." David was also upset. "And those idiotic netizens actually praised you to the heavens, saying you were devoted and pure. In my opinion, you're more disgusting than anyone." Daniel also cursed at me with bitter resentment. "You're really good at acting, aren't you? You have a daughter who is incredibly wealthy, yet you live in a basement apartment every day, eating instant noodles and plain bread? What, were you willing to suffer and live in hardship just to get my $500 and support Pam?" Hence, how can there be someone as hypocritical and disgusting as you in this world? This family of three, one after another, severely reprimanded me. After hearing this, Sophia's face suddenly darkened. You family have a lot of nerve. My father gave his all for you, sacrificing continuously for decades, and not only are you not grateful at all, but you also bully and slander him like this? Do you think everyone is as despicable and vile as you are? Sophia was enraged, and so was Sarah. You're the same age as Daniel. Robert suddenly having a daughter your age, isn't that proof of cheating in marriage? Having an illegitimate daughter behind my back while pretending to be a devoted husband, isn't that disgusting? David also looked at me and said contemptuously, Robert, have you no shame? If you're angry, you can vent it openly. Using your illegitimate daughter to seduce Daniel and setting up this wedding for revenge, what kind of man are you? Daniel also glared at me angrily. Then he said to Sophia, Sophia, I know you love me, but you've gone too far this time. You've made me very unhappy. If you break off your father-daughter relationship with Robert now and transfer all your assets to my name, I might consider forgiving you. Daniel's words were truly shocking. They made me laugh. They made Sophia speechless with anger. She scoffed at Daniel with disdain and said directly, You, forgive me? How do you have the nerve to say that? Don't think I don't know that you're marrying me for my assets. I'm not blind. I would never fall for someone as useless and ungrateful as you. Instead of being so narcissistic, you should think about how to save your Monarch Enterprises. Sophia was blunt and spoke the absolute truth. Daniel's face flushed with anger. If he weren't afraid of Sophia's background and influence, he would have thrown a punch by now. Sarah's nerves were tense, and she asked warily, Sophia, what do you mean by that? What do you mean save Monarch Enterprises? David was also confused. Exactly. Monarch Enterprises is doing just fine. Why talk about saving it? Stop cursing us. Seeing them still so foolish yet confident, I couldn't help but sneer, you'll find out soon enough. Just as I finished speaking, Daniel received a call from his assistant. Mr. Daniel, all our suppliers have suddenly become unreachable. Now our partners are rushing us for deliveries, but we have nothing to provide. Hearing this, Daniel frowned tightly and immediately said, then get goods from other channels. Even if it costs more, just get a batch of goods in to solve the urgent problem. The voice on the other end was anxious. We've tried, but no one is willing to sell us goods at all. All the channels have been taken over by Sophia's people. Now all our partners are getting goods from Sophia, and there's not a single cent in our accounts. Now, Monarch Enterprises is facing huge penalties for breach of contract and massive deficits. The company is bankrupt. As soon as the call ended, a large group of people suddenly burst into the hotel. They were all looking for Daniel to demand wages and compensation for breach of contract. It took less than a minute. Sarah, David, and Daniel went from being envied billionaires to being reviled debtors owing billions. At this point, the three of them finally panicked. Sarah's eyes were wide with rage, and she roared at me, Robert, you're actually using dirty tricks against us here? How can you be so disgusting? Daniel was being pinned to the ground, yelling at me hoarsely, Robert, you need to figure out how to fix this right now. Otherwise, I will never forgive you. These words made me laugh again. It was my fault for encouraging his misguided confidence. I looked at him and said word for word, I really don't care for your forgiveness. All these years, if you had learned any skills, the company wouldn't have lost so much. Daniel gritted his teeth and said, Robert, stop riding on her coattails. Just because you have a capable daughter doesn't make you great. What kind of ability is it to show off using an illegitimate daughter? If you had any real talent, would you have been stupid enough to hand all your assets over to me? Slap. As soon as he finished speaking, Sophia slapped Daniel hard across the face. Don't be disrespectful to my father. I'm not an illegitimate daughter. I'm the daughter my father adopted from the orphanage. For so many years, he raised me meticulously without reservation. He helped me rise from having nothing to my current position. Everything I have is because of him. As soon as these words came out, the entire audience was in an uproar. So she's just an adopted daughter. I thought Robert really cheated in his marriage. Honestly, Robert is really impressive. He adopted a random daughter and raised her to be so outstanding. Yeah, and looking at Daniel, he really seems like a complete failure. Daniel frowned tightly and asked Sophia, then why did you marry me? Sophia snorted and admitted frankly, of course, it was to invite all your friends and family, so everyone could witness the fate of your family of ungrateful wretches. Sarah looked at me in disbelief and asked, Robert, you raised Daniel and also raised a daughter to deal with us? Did you foresee everything? I said coldly, that's right. When you were pregnant, I knew the child in your belly was David's. So while I was raising your son, I also adopted a daughter. I treated both children equally and gave them a fair education. Unexpectedly, one reached the pinnacle. The other, however, was a complete failure. The reason I didn't say anything all these years was to see how far your family would go. Since you showed no mercy, I naturally had to let you experience the fall from grace. My tone was calm, but my words were shock. Everyone present was stunned. Only then did they realize that I wasn't foolish, but had set up a grand game involving human nature. Sarah was so shocked she fell to the ground, her expression dazed. David and Daniel were frozen like statues. They finally realized that all these years, they were the clowns. Under the shocked gazes of the crowd, I turned and left indifferently. Sophia followed me out. Later, I heard that David's family sold all their belongings but still couldn't repay their debts. Ultimately, Daniel met a grim fate, selling all his organs and dying tragically in the wilderness. David was also driven to suicide from constantly running from debt. As for Sarah, she disappeared without a trace after being sold off. Meanwhile, I moved back into my villa. Sophia handed me the gold locket I had given away. Dad, I wanted to ask you before, why did you give our family heirloom to that family of ungrateful wretches? I smiled calmly. Because it's the family heirloom. Giving it to them only represented my determination to take back everything.